I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's my favorite show of all time, and I've watched it multiple times, probably like 12 at this point. And that's over the course of like 4 years. I'm not talking about that show, or reviewing it, or ranking every episode. I've already done that. I'm talking about the first. Yeah, you heard me right. The first Avatar live action. Or the first Avatar live action that I'll actually acknowledge the existence of. I'll be giving my review with the least spoilers possible, telling you what I liked, telling you what I disliked, and giving my final verdict at the end. A shout out to overanalyzing Avatar. I'm going to bring up a few good points he made in his review. And if you're watching this, man, I love your videos. You're awesome. Okay, first big thing I want to talk about is pacing. And man, I gotta tell you, this show is rushed. And yes, I'm pretty sure it's due to the fact that there's less episodes and that they make less stops along the way. Like The Great Divide, which is a good thing that they cut that episode because that episode was terrible. I never expected them to recreate every episode in the live action because every episode they made was like $10 billion. But a big problem I had with pacing was that they mixed multiple episodes from season 1 together. Like the Omashu episode had like 4 season 1 episodes, like Jet, the Waterbending Scroll, the Northern Air Temple, and Omashu. And it even set up the Spirit World thing, which, well, it was an event that happened in the Spirit World episode, but you get the idea. This was a problem with many episodes because it would just cut from storyline to storyline, and it would get really annoying. Yes, there were good times when they let the scenes play out. That was kind of rare, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But when the show is rushed like this, we kind of lose the character building time or character bonding time that we like from the original show. There were some character building moments, but then they just skip to the next scene. My big problem with this is that we don't get to see the trio really interact as much as we did in Book 1. They had multiple episodes that interact with each other, and it made them feel like a family, like Katara said in the Southern Air Temple episode. In this, they just feel like they're traveling with Aang because they feel like they have to. I'll touch on this when I talk about Aang, but it just didn't feel as emotional as it probably should have when Aang said, "No, I'm not going to let you fight. I can't let you die. This is a solo job." I mean, I didn't really feel that because they haven't really had time to actually feel like friends. Now, let's talk about castings. Part of the show that I actually did like. Ian Owsley as Saka is awesome. He can have some funny, sarcastic moments. He's not exactly monotone. He can be funny in some scenes, and he can be serious, like Saka was in some scenes. In the original show, Saka had some serious moments, but at the same time, he was the goofy, funny guy. I mean, besides Saka, the rest of the cast is pretty good. They all look like the characters. I'm not harassing the actors, but sometimes they just don't feel like the characters, and that's mostly the writer's fault, nothing to do with the actors. They did nothing wrong. But overall, the castings are pretty good. I'm getting to a point that overanalyzing Avatar brought up in his video, but Iroh just doesn't feel too much like Iroh. He's the same wise old man who looks back at the past with regret, but I feel like that's the only thing that he is in this show. In the original, he was more than that. He could be funny a lot. He could be really strong when it comes to fighting, which they tried to show in this show, but I don't know, man. In the original, you saw him taking down a bunch of earthbenders while he's half naked, with only the chains and help from Zuko. And I don't really remember the finale of the live action really well, but I do remember the finale of the original, and when he said, "Whatever you do to that spirit, I'll unleash on you tenfold," you felt that power. And then you see him take out 4 firebenders and go after Zhao. I don't really remember if he does that in the live action, but I don't remember it being as cool. In conclusion, while I think Iroh's awesome and I love the actor, he just didn't feel like Iroh. I just want to share something I think was stupid. Here's a minor spoiler. But in the finale, when they killed Momo just to introduce the Spirit Oasis in the middle of the fight, I thought that was really dumb. Of course they're not going to kill Momo. He's the most profitable merchandise from this whole show, besides Appa. In the original, Aang was "Yo, I need to talk to the Ocean and Moon Spirit to, know how to beat the Fire Nation." And then you always "I got you." But in this one, they have a not sad death scene because you know the character's going to survive. And then you always "Yo, I can heal this little monkey guy." Aang's not even trying to find the Spirit Oasis. You'd think he'd be trying to find a way to stop this battle. And it's stupid when Kuruk says,
"Oh, I can sense my knife coming near."
no. It was cooler when Zhao actually picked up the moon spirit and Aang knew it was in danger. So he got there as quick as he can. Not just Kuruk saying, yo, I got this knife, it can kill spirits. I can feel it, coming. Pause. Okay, unpause. But that was just one of the stupidest things ever. Next up, I want to talk about Ko. And he was done right. Now, yeah, I don't like how he was used as a thing to get Aang to talk to Avatar Roku, because they mixed those episodes together. But just Ko was so cool and chilling in the live action. Bro, he made me scared when he jump scared Katara in that flashback. And he's just so scary with all the awesome CGI. I remember seeing memes about people saying, oh, we're going to have to see live action Ko. And we did, and it was awesome. They did Ko right. I mean, of course I'm going to like him in the original better, and his usage, but he was still pretty good here. Something else I kind of want to nitpick is the Spirit World episode. I don't like how Katara and Sokka were brought to the Spirit World with Aang. We do know that normal people are able to go to the Spirit World because Iroh did in the original, well, off-screen. But in the original, it felt special to Aang. That's what the Avatar does. They're the bridge between the worlds. And the only reason that Katara and Sokka were brought to the Spirit World was A, try to do this pre-setup with Yue as a fox, which was kind of stupid. And also kind of give Katara and Sokka some character development by looking them back at the past or whatever. But Sokka being a disappointment to his dad never really goes anywhere. I mean, I guess it makes him want to be a better warrior. But they never really do anything with that in this season. And I would have liked them to save the Katara scene for the Southern Raiders. Alright, I said I'd bring this up. So let's talk about something good. When there was an emotional moment, the show let it play out. They didn't just cut from scene to scene or have a scene play in the middle when it was an emotional scene. They let it play out, like the Liu 10 funeral scene. I was actually surprised by how long they let the scene play because the rest were so choppy and quick. But this scene was beautiful. I'll bring this up later, but the music in the background was Leaves from the Vine, which, well, that obviously made me cry a little. Because you know Iroh's backstory, if you've watched the original. So you know what Iroh's going through. And then you see Zuko come up to him, who is his new figure as a son, I guess. And then Zuko's like, yo, I'll give this medallion to you as a sign that you're going to do great things. And I think that might be the turning point where Iroh changed, or that just might have been where Liu 10 died. I don't know. But this was a beautiful scene that is a standout for the rest of the show. Let's talk about the action and some CGI. This was one of the highlights of the show. They made a lot of boring fights from the original better, like the attack on the Wolf Cove, I guess you can call it now. That fight actually looked cool. In the original, it was just Aang spinning his staff against fire. And they tried to make Sokka actually stand a chance against Zuko, which he didn't. It was cool that they tried. We got to see a lot more action in the Northern Water Tribe and during the Siege of the North. And just a ton of random fights in general were so cool. The fights didn't need to happen, but I didn't care because it was just so fun to watch them. And of course, the CGI and bending is pretty good. That's what you get when you spend $15 million per episode. Appa's CGI was pretty good. Momo was pretty good. The Shearshu was pretty good. The creatures were just pretty good. And the environments, well, I think the CGI was overused on them. They looked pretty good. Okay, I feel like I'm talking too much, so I guess I'm only going to talk about a couple of other things. I'm not a huge fan of what they did with Aang in this show. In the original, he's a fun-loving, adventurous kid who, as the show goes on, takes on the responsibility of mastering the four bending disciplines and becoming the Avatar. But in this show, I feel like he's just more serious, and that's not who Aang is. Now, I think Gordon Cormier did a pretty good job. He had a pretty decent performance as Aang. It's just the writer's fault, man. They didn't have to change my boy Aang. And I hate the fact that he did not bend a single drop of water throughout the entire season. Instead, he had to go to the Northern Water Tribe because Kyoshi told him to, because somehow she knew that there would be an attack there. That's just so stupid. In the original, they had a reason. Katara wanted to go master waterbending. And Aang needed to master waterbending, so they were like, yo, let's just go to the Northern Water Tribe, who cares? And then the attack happened because Zhao and Zuko were following him. I don't know why they couldn't keep that plot beat the same. Aang doesn't even really talk about waterbending. They could have at least thrown a scene or two in there where he tries. It's just so frustrating. And his character is just so confusing that I don't even really want to get into it. Like, he's like, I can't do this with my friends. They're going to get hurt. But then he's like, I got to do this with my friends. It's a new era. I'm going to be the new Avatar. And I just don't understand some of the things they do with his character. They're trying to fit with the more serious tone of this show because you're not really going to have a goofy, colorful show when it's live action. You can't really copy that over from the cartoon. But they could have at least tried to make him more like Aang. I just want to ask, what was the point of having Azula in here if she didn't really do anything? Like, her main thing was promoting Zhao, which happened in the original show and she wasn't behind it. Was the point just to have her here to set up season 2? I mean, I thought it was cool how they, showed a little bit of lightning and blue fire. But she wasn't necessary. And May and Ty Lee just stood there. They were not necessary at all. Just save them for season 2. Come on. Heck, I'm surprised they didn't even show Toph. If they already had Azula, May, and Ty Lee, and they had a certain Book 2 episode in there, I'm surprised that they just didn't show everything from Book 2. Okay, yeah, that's an exaggeration. And Ozai was kind of dumb in the show. Now, the acting was great. He looks great. But he doesn't feel like a villain, or the Ozai we know. It feels like he kind of likes Zuko, which is the opposite. In the original, he literally says his sister was born lucky, and he was lucky to be born. But here, he shows that he actually likes Zuko, and pushes Azula hard. Which, yeah, he did kind of push Azula. But he also treated her like a favorite, and he didn't like Zuko, because he was a wimp in the original. And, well, in this one, he's banished Zuko for the betterment of Zuko. He wanted Zuko to be better. But in the original, they banished him as a punishment because he refused to fight his dad. But in this one, they only banished him because he refused to burn his dad and because he spoke out at a war meeting, which is kind of the same, but also very different. I guess they did have that one scene where he killed all those rebels and where Azula was the spy, so I guess that kind of does good things for them. I don't know, man. Another great thing was the music. There were a lot of original themes that this show made, but they also brought back original songs that we love. They had Leaves from the Vine in there, they also had the Fire Nation theme, and a few others. But also, the originals were also really good. Now, would I listen to this while doing homework? Probably not. But was this a good score? Absolutely, yes. I don't want to rant a lot longer, so I'm going to start wrapping it up. But lastly, I want to talk about The Secret Tunnel. The Cave of Two Lovers. Not one of my favorite episodes, but an episode that holds a special place in my heart. They actually included it in this season. I was so excited when I heard the music when Katara and Sokka were walking into the cave. I was like, oh, they're gonna, the secret tunnel. I was like that one Leonardo DiCaprio meme. But I love the Secret Tunnel song. I love everything about that episode. And the fact that it was in live action was awesome. You know what? This show gets a 10 out of 10 because they sung Secret Tunnel. Alright. So that wraps up a lot of my thoughts. I mean, I know I could have talked about more, about the dialogue, but I feel like I've talked about enough. I know I talked a lot of crap in this video, but I don't think it's that bad. I just don't think you can recreate something that's already practically perfect. In my eyes, anyway. You're bound to have some flaws when you recreate it with live action. I mean, Disney would know, although they do it for the money. I think there was some true heart put into this show. Will I rewatch it? Probably. Do I think it has potential in later seasons? Yeah. Did I think the references were cool and fun sometimes? Absolutely. I never wanted a one-to-one remake, but I feel like they changed way too much stuff and it was really unnecessary. This show gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. I know that seems pretty high for how I was talking about it, but I like pretty much everything related to Avatar besides The Legend of Korra. At least we know it's better than a certain live action. Thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe. And tell me what you thought on this show. I want to know. Anyway, that's it. That's a cut.